All right, EU funds management. That's what we're diving into today. Getting ready for that big interview, right? Well, you've come to the right place. We're going to dig deep into those common questions you might get hit with, using all the career guides and interview prep stuff you sent over. Oh, and even how RoleCatcher can, use AI to give you a real advantage.
Yeah, it's definitely a competitive field, no doubt about that. But, with the right prep, you can really show them what you've got, the knowledge, the experience, that passion. That's what makes you stand out.
For sure. Okay, so let's just jump right in. One of the first questions you're likely to hear is, what experience do you have in managing EU funds? Sounds simple enough, but how do you make your answer really stand out?
Right, it's a classic for a reason. I think
Yeah.
the key is to go beyond just listing your old jobs. Tell a story with your experience. Talk about actual projects where you managed EU funds, the challenges, the successes, the whole journey.
So instead of I manage budgets, it's more like, in my last role, I handled a €2 million budget for this big infrastructure project, made sure we hit our milestones and stayed on track, even with some unexpected regulation changes. Something like that.
Exactly. Give them those concrete examples that show you get the ins and outs of EU funds. Did you navigate a tricky compliance issue, come up with a new process that made things more efficient? Those are the kind of stories they remember.
And this is where I think RoleCatcher can be super clutch. Their AI can help you tailor your answers to each job description. Pretty neat, right?
Totally. It's all about making that relevant experience shine through.
Okay, next up, how do you ensure compliance with EU regulations when managing EU funds? This one sounds like you got to bring your A game, knowledge-wise.
It does. Interviewers want to know you understand those EU regulations inside and out and how to apply them. One big one to be ready for is the Common Provisions Regulation. It basically lays down the ground rules for using EU structural funds.
So they could ask, for instance, how have you used the principles from the European structural and investment funds regulations in your previous roles?
Exactly. So you want to be familiar with things like, sound financial management, transparency, the partnership principle, which is all about collaboration between different groups, and be ready to give specific examples of how you put those principles into action.
Speaking of real-world examples, let's talk risk management. How do you identify and manage risks when managing EU funds?
Mm.
Everyone loves a good risk management story.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's your chance to shine, show them you can anticipate problems, and, take charge.
Right. So how would someone answer that effectively?
The STAR method's your friend here. Situation, task, action, result. Lay it out like a story. A time you spotted a potential risk, what needed to be done, the actions you took, and boom, the positive outcome.
So you could talk about a time you caught a potential budget shortfall early. Walk them through what you did. Maybe you renegotiated contracts, secured extra funding, adjusted timelines, and emphasize that successful resolution. Did you save the project? Minimize losses? That's the good stuff.
Totally. And don't be afraid to show you've learned from, maybe things that didn't go perfectly. Did a tricky risk situation teach you something valuable? Help you develop a new approach? Those insights are gold.
And this is where having your experience already in RoleCatcher could be a game changer, wouldn't you say? Just like having your experience organized and ready to go, tailored to each question, it's got to be a huge time saver.
Oh, absolutely. It streamlines the whole prep process, helps you put your best foot forward for sure.
So we're back, and yeah, that last part about finding your why, that really resonated with me. It's so important to tap into what drives you in this field.
It's a difference between just answering a question and really connecting, showing them who you are, what you're passionate about. It makes a huge impact.
Huge. So for anyone out there gearing up for those EU funds management interviews, it's not just about acing the technical stuff, but also letting your personality shine through.
100%. Authenticity is key, always.
Okay, so before we wrap up this deep dive, I did want to touch on a couple more practical tips for really nailing those interviews. The interview guide had some good stuff on this.
Okay.
Let's start with body language.
Oh, it's huge, right? Eye contact, good posture, a firm handshake. Those things scream confidence and professionalism.
And try to avoid, the nervous habits, fidgeting, tapping your foot, all that. It can be distracting for the interviewer.
And a genuine smile goes a long way, too. First impressions matter.
Totally. Now, another thing the guide stressed was asking good questions at the end of the interview.
It shows you're really interested and have been paying attention.
Plus, it's your chance to get some intel, figure out if that's the right fit for you, too.
Exactly. So think about what you genuinely want to know. The team, the culture, maybe professional development opportunities.
Or something specific from the job description that caught your eye. Don't be shy. Dig a little deeper.
And avoid questions you could easily Google, right? You want to show you've done your research.
Good point.
Yeah.
All right, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about follow-up. What should people know about that?
It's so simple, but so many people drop the ball. Following up is a chance to reiterate your interest and leave a strong final impression.
And you can bring up anything you might have forgotten to mention during the interview itself.
Exactly. A good thank you note can make all the difference.
So what makes a thank you note really stand out?
Start by expressing sincere gratitude for the opportunity. Then, mention something specific that resonated with you from the conversation, shows you were listening.
Like if they shared something about the company culture or a project you found interesting.
Exactly. Personalize it. And of course, reiterate your enthusiasm for the role and what you bring to the table.
And if there's anything you wish you'd elaborated on, the thank you note's a good place to do that.
Briefly, though. Keep it concise and positive.
Okay, so we've talked about the human side of things. But what about tech? RoleCatcher isn't just for interview prep, right?
No way. It's like having a whole career management platform. Track applications, organize notes, even practice interview answers.
They even have this thing that analyzes your resume and tells you how to make it better for specific jobs. It's like magic.
It really is. It takes a lot of the stress out of job hunting, that's for sure.
For sure. Okay, so we've covered a ton in this deep dive. Interview prep, career paths, you name it. But before we wrap up this part, I wanted to get your take on something that I think is really important.
Yeah, what's up?
Understanding your own motivations for going into this line of work.
Oh, that's huge. It's more than just prepping answers, you know? It's about knowing yourself, your values, what really excites you about this field.
Right. So before you walk into that interview, take some time to think. Why EU funds management? Is it the impact, the challenge, the international environment?
Exactly. When you know your why, you answer questions more authentically. You connect with the interviewers on a different level. And that passion, it's contagious.
Love it. All right, let's take a quick pause here to gather our thoughts. And when we come back, we'll wrap up this deep dive with some final inspiration for all you aspiring EU funds managers out there. Okay, we're back for the final stretch of our EU funds management deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from nailing those interview questions to figuring out your career path, and of course the importance of always keep learning and growing.
Absolutely. It's about setting yourself up for success, not just in the interview, but in this whole career.
And honestly, I'm feeling super inspired, I hope everyone listening is too.
Me too. This field attracts some seriously passionate people doing really important work.
So as we wrap things up, what's one golden nugget of advice you'd give to someone just starting out in EU funds management? What's helped you along the way?
That's a good one. Beyond the technical stuff, I'd say resilience is key. You'll hit roadblocks, make mistakes, have those moments of doubt, It's that ability to get back up, learn, and keep going that really matters.
Resilience, love that. It's about having that grit to push through when things get tough. And I imagine they do in this line of work.
Oh, they do, but that's part of the reward too. When you see your project succeed, knowing you helped secure the funding, navigated all the challenges, it's a great feeling.
It's like you're part of something bigger.
Yeah.
Supporting innovation, sustainable development, helping economies grow. It's pretty amazing.
It is. That sense of purpose, of making a real difference, that's what drives so many people in this field.
Well said. Okay, so to all our aspiring EU funds managers out there, believe in yourselves, stay curious, don't be afraid of challenges, and never forget your why.
And hey, don't forget about tools like RoleCatcher. They've got your back every step of the way, from polishing that resume to prepping for interviews and navigating your career.
Yeah, seriously, it's like having a whole team of career coaches right there in your pocket, always there to give you that extra boost.
For sure. It's an incredible time to be in EU funds management. There are so many opportunities to do impactful work. The future is bright.
Couldn't agree more. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks to everyone for joining us today. We hope you've learned a ton, feel energized, and are excited to see where this journey takes you.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
And from all of us here at The Deep Dive, best of luck on your EU funds management adventures. We'll see you next time.